So the athletic departments are losing money, but the NIL money is going to, signing the athletes. So now the athletic director is going, oh my God, I've got a $5.2 million deficit. What am I going to do? Well, he starts looking at the non-revenue sports. Who's spending a lot of money? Wrestling. Wrestling has a pretty decent budget. And, I'm sorry, Coach. We just can't afford you.
All right, welcome back to the North Florida Wrestling Show. We have a legend in the sport here today to talk to us about some ways to continue to grow the sport. Man needs no introduction. We have Coach Wade Schalles on the show. Wade, thank you so much for being on. I am so excited to talk about these ideas that you have been circulating around lately. How have you been?
I'm doing well. I just finished my 72nd trip around the sun. Had birthday last week, so 72 now. Seem to be upright and doing well. Glad to be on the show.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it. I know you have these 6 ideas that you believe is going to be paramount to growing the sport in the future. I know you have one that is a particular, passion of yours of these ideas. Do you want to go ahead and start telling people about it?
Well, we certainly will get into those, but the idea is, I'm relatively creative. If someone's going to say something about me, they're going to say he's creative or he's crazy. Okay, same thing. And where we are today in the sport of wrestling, people don't realize how tenuous our sport is. I mean, we got thrown out of the Olympics in 2013. We fought like hell and got back in. It's going to come up again in 2024, whether we stay or go. And I'm not sure how much we've been doing to stay. And in the Olympics, they have, there's about 12,500 athletes that show up at the Olympics and about 6,000 athletes, coaches, trainers, yada, yada. And it's so big that no city anymore can handle the number of people that show up, competitors, coaches, athletes, trainers. And so what they're doing is when they add a sport, they subtract a sport. Or in our case, when we wanted to have women in wrestling in the Olympics, which we should have had years ago, I'm so excited about the women in wrestling. It's the number one growth sport in all sports. Women's wrestling is number one in how fast they're growing. But when we decided we wanted them in the Olympics, the Olympic IOC, International Olympic Committee, told us, you can have them if you want, but you have right now 10 freestyle, 10 Greco weight classes. You're going to have to give up 4 of each. Okay, and we'll bring in the women. So we agreed to that. So we now, at the Olympics, we have 6 freestyle, 6 Greco, and 6 women, which is 18, because they weren't going to give us 21. They weren't going to give us 777. And they're happy with that because they got 4 spots back, or 2 spots back. And so, like coming up, do you know breakdancing is one of the Olympic sports now in 2024?
Yeah, I saw flag football also got in as well.
Flag football. Now we have 7 other sports that are going to be voted on in 2024 to go in 2028. Basketball or baseball is going to be one of them, which is not in there yet, surprisingly, because of baseball, I would have thought it's a little bit more national or global. But cricket, there's a bunch of things. But anyhow, for every sport that comes in, someone's got to go out or someone's going to lose some spots. And it's all economy now. Amateurs out, professionals in, and it's all about how many, Ford, Chrysler, Rolex, what kind of ads can you bring in for the IOC? And if you look at it, wrestling doesn't make it on the TV very much in the Olympics. The crowd is not necessarily the greatest, and we don't do a really good job of schmoozing with the IOC leadership. We could get pushed out, and we're the first sport. I mean, it was track and field, wrestling, and I think boxing were the first 3 sports ever in the Olympics, and we could get tossed out just like we did in 2013. If we get tossed out again, we're not coming back. At the college level, you have the NIL, which is really doing a great job if you're a football coach or a basketball coach in the Power 5 conferences. Texas A&M 2 years ago spent $38 million in 1 year paying athletes come to Texas A&M. Above and beyond, they're become basically professional contracts, $1 million here, $2 million there for a quarterback. Wrestling's doing that now. The high number is probably $250,000 for a stud athlete to transfer from Cal Poly to Penn State or from Northern Illinois to Iowa. And what's happening is that's taking money away from the actual athletic department. Where we had trouble, like I'll talk about Old Dominion University. Stevie Martin did a wonderful job there coaching, but the athletic director there told him on numerous occasions, "Hey, Stevie, you got to help me. I'm getting killed here financially. Could you go out and raise some money for the program to help me? Because I just started football at Old Dominion, and we don't have a lot of money running around. We need some help." And Steve basically said, I've been trying, but there's just not that kind of money, that you'd think in the Tidewater area. And then, whether it was 1, 2, or 3 years later, when they decided to have the RTCs, regional training centers, Old Dominion started one. And amazingly, that year, $250,000 showed up from the local people in Tidewater for the RTC. So that tells the athletic director, you weren't telling me the truth for the last 10 years. I've been begging you to help out. And you said there's no money. And all of a sudden, $250,000 shows up because it goes to your RTC to help the program. I understand what you were doing, but what we're going to do now is we're dropping the sport. So they dropped the sport. And that's why they dropped the sport. So the RTCs are coming into vogue right now, with obviously the big one being Penn State. I mean, they're killing it. This is the first year I have ever seen the preseason ranking, who's number 1, number 3, number 8, in the nation. And number 1, Penn State, the number 2 team can double their points and not beat Penn State. Penn State is so far ahead of number 2. Penn State's second string would probably finish in the top 5 in the nation if they were going to wrestle the redshirting or, not just get beat out or something like that. They have such, they have the RTC there. They have, I think, 6 of the 10 world medalists, or the 10 people on the world team that just won the world championships are from the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club. And more power to them. I'm from Pennsylvania. Yay, go get them, Penn State. But that's not good for the sport. When you don't have competition, you're in trouble. And that's where my top 6 come in, is the thing about competition. If if how many people are going to drive to Penn State to watch them annihilate Ohio State or humiliate Wisconsin, and win 9 of 10 matches, and the score is 58-3. If it's snowing out, I'll watch it on TV. What's going to happen is the numbers are going to drop, and and the coaches are at fault here. And that's why I did my top 6. The reasons to change here, we're going to talk about, is the coaches are the foxes in the henhouse. You can't give them the keys to the henhouse. They're only going to vote for what's going to be good for them. And they're not going to do anything that could jeopardize the positioning that they're in right now. Any change that's a serious change, maybe I'll go from 4th to 7th in the country. I'm not voting for that. But they're competitive. Number 4 is going to be number 4 no matter what the damn rules are. But they're scared. And they won't make the changes. The rules committee, I don't know what the hell they're thinking. They're not thinking, they're not marketers, they're wrestling people. So, this year they decided to have a 3-point takedown. What the hell? What are you doing that for? So you can come back next year and crow, well, at the NCAAs, we went up 33% on the total number of points that were scored, so it has to be more exciting. No, you went up 33% from 2 points to 3 points. Nothing's changed. But you tried to sell us on, like we're idiots. Well, we did that because we wanted to have more excitement. We want to have more scoring. Well, yeah, but if you have a takedown worth 3 and escapes worth 1, why would you ever teach a reversal? You teach takedowns. I can get 3 points versus 2 points. Why do I want to teach a half Nelson and get a 2-point predicament when I get a 3-point takedown? So what you've done by a 3-point takedown is you diminished the importance of a reversal or back points or pins by having the takedown. All you have to do is, they're moving toward freestyle. All you have to do is be good on your feet. And there are a lot of people out there that want to see the push-out rule from freestyle come over to the collegiate. Why don't we just call it Sambo or sumo? Yeah, get pushed out. When Gable started, and he was really good at conditioning, He would, that's stalling, hand in the air, stalling, he's backing up. Well, he had 10 warthogs, little short, scrawny body, strong guys. And if you were tall, you couldn't hold your ground. They just get in there and push you out of bounds, stalling, one other point. And then the skinny kid would just get frustrated, take a shot, get snapped down, spun behind, and gets beat. You don't want to, I don't want to find out who has the most horsepower. I want to see who has the most technique. I want to see excitement. The coaches shouldn't be in charge of this. They should not be in charge of this. In the NFL, how many coaches do you think would actually vote for the worst team in the NFL to get the first round draft choice? Oh, I'm for that idea, says the coach. No, they wouldn't. They would never vote that in, but they're not asked. The NFL coaches do not have any say in what the rules are going to be. But they want what the NFL wants. They understand parity. They want to know that every team has a shot on any given Sunday of beating another team. Like right now, the way we're going, we don't have parity. You could put a Big Ten All-Star team together, and they can't beat Penn State.
Yeah, I don't see Penn State slowing down anytime soon either.
No, Cale's doing a wonderful job. He's playing within the rules, and he has a support. Pennsylvania. You talk about the recruiting center. You have Jersey on the East Coast, New York just north of you, Ohio just west of you. You have the three of the 5 best recruiting states in America bordering your state. And the number 1 every year is Pennsylvania. We have more All-Americans at the NCAA every year. It does not change. It's not like, well, for 2 years out of the last 3. No, out of the last 25 years, Pennsylvania. We have the more All-Americans, so the best high school recruiting is PA. So sure, Cale's going to do really well. And he gets that one kid from Dallas, the Bo Nickel, or he'll get, one kid from South Dakota or wherever, and then he gets the rest of them out of the PA or, bordering New Jersey, New York, and so on. And great, but it's not great for the wrestling, for the sport. So we have to have parity. Then people, and what they're doing now with the NIL, Northern Illinois had their first All-American this last year for the first time in, I think, 10 years. And, Sunday, the day after the NCAAs, he was gone. Here's a check, son. You're coming to my school. Gone. Cal Poly, tracks. Gone. He's a 3-time All-American. He has 1 year left. He's at Penn State this coming year. They wrote a check. That's okay for Penn State, and they're not doing anything wrong. They do a great job, and they're playing within the rules. But the rules are bad because now, who wants to go to Cal Poly now? They had one really good. They have good kids, but they had a superstar. Northern Illinois had a superstar for Northern Illinois. Now, the 100 or 200, 300 people who want to go watch that won't go next year because he's not there. So you're killing the Northern Illinois. You're killing the Cal Poly.
Yeah, well, that one or two superstars that are at that school that could promote even more recruits coming in. But like, oh, I get to work with that kid. All of a sudden, that disappears. It's like, okay, well, he's leaving to go to Penn State. Why would I go to that school? Maybe a kid that is the next, Trask is now not going to go to Northern Illinois.
And if you look at NCAA football this year, Alabama's not Alabama anymore right now. Clemson's not Clemson anymore. Washington, where the hell did they come from? They've always been good, but never great. Now they have a chance to win the national championship this year, but they wrote a lot of checks, in the NIL. It was millions and millions. Now, where's this money coming from? It's coming out of the athletic. Don Reed Ford, used to give $250,000 to his favorite university where Don Reed graduated from. I made the name up, But now, the coach goes, hey, Don, I need you to recruit this quarterback for me. I need you to give him money. Oh, okay. So he does. He gives him $250,000 to come or whatever. And all of a sudden the athletic director goes, wait a minute, I'm $250,000 short here. Don Reed didn't give me that $250,000 that he's been giving me for the last 10 years. So the athletic departments are losing money, but the NIL money is going to, signing the athletes. So now the athletic director is going, oh my God, I've got a $5.2 million deficit. What am I going to do? Well, he starts looking at the non-revenue sports. Who's spending a lot of money? wrestling has a pretty decent budget usually at the Power Five and some of the bigger schools. And I'm sorry, Coach, we just can't afford you. And they're going to, the non-revenue sports are going to take this NIL and the regional training centers are going to cause havoc, and the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, and the really poor are getting gone. So anyhow, I came up with these 6 ideas that, I think will help the sport. Of course, I have no belief that the rules committee is going to listen to Wade. As much as I make sense and everyone goes, yeah, Wade, this shit's good. We need to do this. They're not going to do it because I came up with the idea and they didn't. It's just a matter of they got the yardstick. Mine's bigger than yours, and they're not going to do it. So Wade, you got to make these changes. You got to force them. I'm not forcing them to do anything. I'm going to sit back and go, I'm done. My kids are out. I love the sport, but I can't do anything. And because I've said it, they're not going to do it because Wade said. So I'm spitting in the wind here, but I'm having fun, and I've got a lot of support. I mean, a lot of support from people going, this makes a lot of sense. It makes too much sense. We got to take the rule book that's, I don't know how long it is now, 128 pages. We got to get it down to 50. We have people showing up that don't know what the hell's going on. It's like wrestling is a cerebral sport. No, it's grab them, throw them down, and beat them up. And now I'm simplifying it, but that's what wrestling is. You don't have to have 128 pages of rules and different positions that the coaches get in. The referees, new people come and they watch and go, oh, what was that? They're always asking the guy sitting next to them, what did the ref was that? What did that mean? Why is that allowed or not allowed? And what you do in Jeopardy on TV, if the questions are so tough that you can't get one right sitting in your living room, you'll stop watching. They're making you feel like an idiot because you can't get any of the questions right. But they purposely arrange it so you can get at least 25%, if not 50%, right. So you at least feel like you have some intelligence. But in wrestling, we want to keep the people who wrestle know the rules and know what the different signals are. But the new people that come, I think I'll give it a try. I hear this wrestler, this kid's pretty good in high school. I want to go over to high school and watch this. But when he comes in there, you make him feel like an idiot. He doesn't know what's going on. And he says, I'm not coming back because you made me feel stupid. There's too many rules. And they're all bullshit rules because they layer a rule on top of a rule. Well, we made this rule and now, but the coaches, they figured out how to tweak the rule to their benefit. So, they made the rule about the seeding this year at the NCAA. It was last year, or year before, where your record is 21-2 or whatever. What 2 did you lose? Whether you're going to be seeded 5th or 4th or whatever. But if you have a big match coming up where you could lose, you just forfeit, or you make it a forfeit. You don't wrestle the match, so it's not a loss. So any good match is coming up. The kid who's just a hair below, whoever's going to wrestle RBY, is not going to win it. So he forfeits. So he doesn't have a loss. So he gets seeded 3rd instead of 5th at the NCAAs. So the top matchups don't occur. At the Big Ten, they had multiple forfeits because kids didn't want to lose, so they could get in the opposite bracket. The coach figured out, well, if we lose this, we'll get 4th seed instead of 3rd seed. That'll put us in the semis with the top seed. We think we can beat him. We can't beat the 2nd seed. They start moving around here. So what you're doing, you cheated the fans at the Big Ten out of 5 or 6 great matches, potential matchups, because the coach wanted to protect the kid's seed. You can't do that. You can't forfeit a match or 2. So when you go to college, when you pay $10, $20, whatever it is at Penn State to go and watch the match, and you basically have signed a contract, Penn State, with your fans that for my $20, I'm going to see 10 matches. So when I get in there and I have 2 forfeits, it's like going to a restaurant and ordering a dozen oysters, getting 9 oysters, but you get a check that says you have to pay for 12. Somehow that guy's not going to come back and eat at your restaurant.
Well, I mean,
You can't.
going back to your juxtaposition of college football, could you imagine like a team that wanted to make it into the top four for the playoffs, saying like, "Oh, we're not going to play this game because we might lose and it might knock us out of the top four for the
Yeah,
playoffs." That would not
exactly.
fly. That would not fly.
Instead of being 12-0, they're 11-0 or 12-1. They you know 11-0. I should be in the playoffs. Well, we do that in wrestling. How the hell can we get away with that? You cheat the fans out of the best matches, and you expect them to come back and say, "That's okay. Thank you. May I have another,
Well,
please?"
and for me, it just looks bad on the sport and the wrestler. Maybe I'm naive, but like at least for me back in the day, I wanted to wrestle whoever. Like I wasn't. It would break my heart for my coach to be like, "Oh, we're gonna forfeit this match." So you can have. I'm like, I'm just gonna let me
Maybe
wrestle.
you do, but the coach says no. The coach says you're not doing it because I want to win the NCAA, says the coach. I want to be fifth in the country. I don't want to be eighth because you were stupid, went out and got your ass kicked in a match you wanted to wrestle, and now you're seated fourth instead of third, and you got the NCAA champ in the semis. And now because you're going to lose in the semis, I'm going to go from fifth in the country to eighth in the country, and that's not going to happen. I don't care about you. I care about me, and that's what the coaches are. And I don't mean the coaches are bad; they're just competitors. They're a lion. They're going to eat meat. It doesn't matter what the meat is; they're going to eat meat. But you, as the zookeeper, you don't go in there with a steak in your hand. You throw the steak between the bars. You know, you just know that. You don't ask the coaches what the hell you should do because they're going to do what's in their best interest. And I don't blame them for that. I blame the rules committee for being stupid enough to think that the coaches are going to do the right thing. Right thing for whom? So anyhow, let's get into the top six. And the first one I think you wanted to talk about was a point earned as a point scored. And I think if I was if I was king for a day and I could only change one thing in wrestling, that would be the thing I would change of the six that I wrote down. Okay. And that basically says if I score a point in a match, it goes up on the board as a team point. In every, let me say that again, in every sport in America, every sport in America except wrestling, if you score a touchdown, it goes up on the board as a team points. You put the ball in the basket, it's 2 more points for your team. If you take the guy down, that should be 2 team points. This 3-point decision, 4-point major, 5-point tech, 6-point pin is bullshit. If I win 8-2, my team gets 8 points, your team gets 2 points. Simple. Everyone understands that. There's no explanation to the people up in the stands. Now, you'll probably have a question, and some people are listening to this right now. Well, what are you going to do about a forfeit? What are you going to do about a pin? What are you going to do about a default? I'll come back to that. But if I'm up 5-1 and I'm riding a guy and there's a minute and a half to go, what am I doing? Nothing. What's the bottom guy doing? Nothing. He knows he's down by 4 points, 5-1. There's a minute to go. He's already got taken down twice. He's given up. He just lays there. He might try to half hard to get out, but he's not. And the crowd's going, okay, what am I going to do? Hey, where are we going? What bar are we going to after this? Or I'm going to the bathroom. I'll be back because nothing's going to happen in the next minute and a half because the match is over. Well, with a point earned and a point scored, everybody is still screaming. Because if the kid gets a reversal and loses 5-4 instead of 5-1, and his team wins 126-125, his 2 points, that last 30-second reversal, made the difference of what team won and what team lost. His teammates are screaming like hell at him. Come on, Jimmy, you can do it. Get a reversal. We need 2 more points. Everybody is screaming right up, including the coach. And now the coach in the wrestling room, he's threatening their life. Take him down again. Cut him loose. Take him down. Put him on his back. God damn it. Pin him. I need points. He's going to be screaming like that every day in the wrestling room, and it will change the mentality of the wrestler and wrestling. Because in a match, he wants those points. If he doesn't get them, he's going to lose. Well, wait, we can't have that because, I could win 8 matches out of 10 and lose the dual meet. Yeah. Well, when LeBron James, he scores 89 points out of 112. and his team wins. Well, that's not fair, would wrestling coaches would say, because LeBron, because one guy scored 87 points. Well, it's LeBron James. You got your star. Stars run up points. You know, you want these points on the board. Now, what do you do with a pin? 15 points on top of whatever's been earned.
So let me ask you this though. So would you do away with a tech? Would you get it to a point where, a
Yeah,
kid
get rid.
a kid could potentially score 100, like, because we do have those mismatches where, I feel like that. I do like the idea. I didn't think about how much it promotes, wrestling the entire time and how it will affect, the intensity of the matches. But, in some scenarios, you could have a kid that's like, well, I'm, a senior going up against this freshman that's never wrestled before. I'm going to go out there, I'm going to score 200 points on him. Like, do you think there be a point where the point scoring would
Yes,
be gratuitous?
I have not. There will be tweaking, obviously, anytime you have a rule. And when people get upset at me, or well, that's crazy, I don't want to listen to Wade. Yeah, that doesn't work. Well, it will work. Wrestling today, if it was taking a test, is going to get the papers coming back from the teacher. It's going to be a 42. So you failed big time. 70 or above, you pass on a test. It's a 42. What I've done with this rule, I've taken it over to passing. It's maybe a 78, maybe an 82. And what wrestling people always love to do is they'll find the hole in the problem. Now, we're not going to do that because this will happen. And that's not fair. Okay, so you pointed out the 10% I didn't fix. But God bless it, you're allowed to cheat on this test. And you're in a classroom. You're allowed to cheat, the teacher says. And you're going to get a 42, and the guy next to you is going to get a 78. Are you going to just, well, I'm not going to look on his paper because, but I'm allowed to cheat. So, why wouldn't you take a 78 over a 42? Right now, we're at a 42. Is there some what ifs? And, well, I'm not sure that's fair. Well, I don't give a shit what you think. If I can get you up to 78, will you take it versus the 42? Duh. So there'll be some tweaking. I think if you get a 15-point separation, the match should end. Because I don't want a two-time state champ wrestling a first-year freshman, or an eighth grader who's allowed to wrestle and just get crushed. You terminated at 15. But if you were up at 14-2 and you pinned him, it's still 14 plus 15. It's 29. Okay. Now it could be plus 10. It could be plus 8. It could be plus 14. I don't care. Come up with a number that you're happy with. But the concept is a winning concept of nonstop action. And I would. I mean, why do you have two sets of rules? I mean, again, you're confusing the fan. So okay, instead of the NCAA winning team have 128 points and the second placer has 94, the winning team here has 586, and the second place team has 492. So what? Either you have more points or less points than the guy ahead of you, and you're going to be finished fourth or third. It's still the same thing. Gymnastics, I think the winning score is something like 980. So there's a other sports that are doing high scores like that. And when you have a score, when you have a point earned, point scored, the winning team's going to have 140, 180, 110 points. The chance of having a tie and having to explain to more people in the stands the 5 different criteria to break the tie on who won, you don't have to worry about those. You can throw that page, rip it out of the book. It doesn't exist anymore. You don't need to have it because you're not going to have a tie when you score that many points. The odds of Vegas would take that odd real quick. The two teams are going to have 158 points each. That ain't happening. It'll happen when it's 22-22. When it's a lower score like we have now, but not the bigger. There's forfeit. 15 points, 15 for the winner, 0 for the lose. For 15. So it's a 15-point change.
That actually brings up a
Yeah,
good point though with the points scored. So, kind of going back to the NCAA problem with people taking forfeits, would that not encourage coaches to be like, okay, it's easier, it's better for the team if I take a forfeit rather than send somebody out there that's going to get beat,
of course.
beat by 15 points and then pinned. Like would
Yeah, I mean, you have that, but that doesn't happen all that often, or I don't think it will. And you could certainly say, "What if?" And that's and that, you know. So you're taking it or have that. You're pointing out the 15 points between 185 that I didn't figure out yet.
I got you.
You know,
I said I
but
am. This is why I was. I'm so glad to have you on to talk about these points at length because I think they're very great points. And like you said, like a lot of stuff needs to be workshopped. They're just starting points for us to start implementing change to grow the sport and make it more fan friendly. So this is just me trying to. Like I said, I like the idea. I really do, and I did not
of
think
course.
of the because
Well, I have another rule in here of the six that takes care of that challenge you just had. Okay, and that is called doubling up. And a young man can wrestle a weight class and then stay out on the mat and wrestle the next weight class. He can double up, wrestle this one, or he can go up two weights. Go out at one weight class, wrestle a weight class, and go out the next weight class and wrestle two weight classes in a dual meet. Why not? If you had, again, LeBron James, and you knew tonight when you spent $180 for a ticket to go in and watch LeBron James play, and you knew he was going to play the first 2 minutes of the 2-hour game, and then they're going to bench him, would you pay that $180 to go watch LeBron James play for 2 minutes? No, and hell no. And that's what we do. We put our best athletes out on the mat for 6 minutes or a pin, 4.5 minutes, and then they're done for the night. Why aren't we showcasing? Why aren't we making legends out of our wrestlers? Let them wrestle twice. Now, when you double up, you're only allowed to do that 3 times a year, only 3. Because if not, what you're going to do is you're going to push out a weaker athlete one weight class above you, and that's not fair on multiple platforms. Why should someone come bust their ass every day in practice for a year and never get to wrestle, even though they're varsity, but they're not varsity because they don't get to wrestle. They get to dress up and run out with the team, but the guy below me who's better always gets to wrestle. So you're only allowed to do it 3 times. So in the case where if someone's going to forfeit, coach, as you put up with a point earned, well, you get a weak kid, I'm just going to forfeit the weight class. I don't want to lose 28 points. I want to lose 15. Well, in that case, you're forced by the rule that you must send up the kid below. If you're going to forfeit at 150, what's the weight class now? 157. If you're going to forfeit that weight class, your 140, the 149 pounder's got to go up. We just wrestled. I don't give a shit. You forfeit the weight class, he's got to move up. He's got to wrestle twice. So we're given 10 matches. Again, they're paying for 10 matches, the fans, and they're going to get 10 matches. So now, okay, well, geez, I'm going to put the 47-pounder out there, and he's going to get crunched, or he has a chance. I don't know, but whatever. So you're going to get 10 matches. And so you play that for now. Can you imagine the dual meet scenario that Penn State is losing by 3 points at halftime to Ohio State, and then Cale's going, shit, I want to double up, my best kid in here up at 78. I want to bring him up, push him up to 97 too, but I got Iowa coming up. I got Oklahoma State and Oklahoma next 3 weekends. I may need him for his 3 double ups later in the season. Should I put him out now? So now you have all kind of strategy, and the fans love that. What do you think Cale's going to do? Is he going to put that kid out there for a second time? I don't know. Yeah, he should. Well, no. Well, he got Iowa next week. You can't put him out this week and have him do his 3rd one and then not have him available for next week when we really need him for Iowa. Well, what should he do? Then the fans have fun. They get the armchair quarterback. Oh, I can't believe Sanderson did that. Or wow, it was smart on Cale's part to do that. So you have some strategy in there. And when the six I came up with feed off of each other, and a weakness in the one gets picked up off of the
Yeah,
next.
I was just gonna say because I know that there's one weight jumbling which I will probably end up talking about next week that I think really ties into the strategy play. I've talked about it with a couple of coaches, and the feedback on it, the idea of it was pretty positive. They've already said that it's going to create a lot more strategy as far as one coach said he's going to have like a flow chart for every single team, and he's already so I can already see the wheels turning and how it would encourage it. But we'll make sure to spend some time on that one.
Well, so I beg the listeners and the viewers of this to hold their tongue until they hear all six and how they intertwine with one another. And remember, I'm getting you up into passing grade, and we're not at passing grade right now. We're losing. We don't have fans. We don't. Well, what are you talking about, Wade? Iowa sells out every year. Penn State, look at them. Yeah, okay, 2 out of 78 Division I schools. We don't have fans. To get in the top 10 best dual meet numbers, to be number 10, all you have to do is have 500 people show up for a match, and you're in the top 10. 500 doesn't even pay for the ticket takers and the referee to show up, more or less make any money. And if Clarion was number one in the country and Penn State wasn't, Clarion would be full. Whoever's number one and number two is going to have a full gym because they're number one and number two. 3, 4, 5, 12, 18, 22. The bottom half of the 78 D1 programs, this is not true what I'm about to say, but it's damn close. They have more wrestlers sitting on the bench than they have fans in the stands in the bottom half of the 78 D1 programs. Now, that is not true. They have more fans. But when you look up in a gymnasium that holds 3,000 or 5,000 and you have 126 people, it looks like the wrestlers outnumber the fans. And you can't keep a program that way. And when we have the more injuries than any other sport, wrestling, when we have the worst academic average of any male sport in college, the athletic director goes, and you're spending money that I don't have, and you're bitching all the time that I haven't given you a new wrestling mat or new uniforms, or we want to wrestle at the Vegas Open, and that's Appalachian State saying that, and they have to fly the whole way across the country in today's economy. The athletic director goes, why do I need these people? They're pulling my academic average down. So when I talk to my alumni, which keeps me in my position and my paycheck, I want to be able to say, yeah, we graduate 12% more than the average student body here academically because we spend time. We bring in the right type of young men, young women, and we have this type of grades. And wrestling's pulling that down. And wrestling has more injuries than anybody else. Why do I need them? They don't. And we're going to see something happen here in the next 4 or 5 years. And I talked to two people who are really important in business, who I know who they are. I'm not going to say their names, but they both told me, and they're not in the same family. They're two parts of the country. They felt that academically in school, in the next 5 years, they said 1,000 colleges are going to shutter their doors because they don't have the money to keep the doors open. They're not having the student body coming in to sit in the seats. Forget the athletics. They're going to just cease to exist. Now, I don't believe, I said, I don't believe that. They said, well, you better believe it, because they had stats that, I said, 1,000? Now they're mostly smaller schools. But, if that's happening at the institutional level, and the other institutions see that, they're going to say, I've got to get my house. AEDs say, I have to get my house in order financially. I need to keep up with a Power 5, if I'm a Power 5, or a 1AA, Appalachian State. I need to keep up with all the other 1AA schools, and I've got to have a budget of at least $4.5 million for football. And right now I'm at 3.2, and I got all these non-revenue sports screaming for more money. I got to get rid of them so I can be competitive. Clemson would love to get out of the ACC and go to the Southeastern Conference. If you're in the Southeastern Conference, you get $6 million. No, 6 or 60. That's a big difference. It's 6 or 60 million, a year for being in a conference, just by all the revenue coming in, TV and so on. And if you're in the ACC, it's 30 million. Yeah, 60 million and 30 million. 30 million in the ACC, 60 in the SEC, 60 in the Big 12 or Big 10, which is now Big 12 or Big 14 now, whatever, because Southern Cal and UCLA came in. That's why the Pac-12 is falling apart, because they're only getting about 30 million a year from TV revenue. And like Clemson, they don't want to be $30 million less than Alabama, because that's serious money when you're talking about bringing in some studs. They want to be number one in the country. They don't want to be number 12, and so they're going to compete. And now the athletic director says, I got to get the hell out of there. And you're going to see outside money coming in, and investor money to pay off the ACC to get Clemson the hell out of there to go to the Southeastern Conference. Money is tight right now, as it is in your home, as it is when I fill my gas tank up. It's not the same as it was. I'm living in Los Angeles, and it's the regular $6.33 a gallon, and it's over $7 for premium. Things are not the same anymore. I mean, Arizona State for wrestling, their closest major D1 program that they got to wrestle is Stanford. Now, I'm not sure they're major, but okay. At 650 miles between Tempe and Palo Alto, where Stanford is. 650 miles. And that's the closest dual meet. Oregon State, their closest dual meet is 700 miles away. And they're two satellite programs out in the middle of nowhere in wrestling terms. The athletic director said, why am I having this sport? Why do I have to fly to Penn State, from Oregon, from Eugene or Corvallis, to wrestle, my team flight? No, I don't need this sport. So and Sunkist Kids just dropped out of the money. Sunkist Corporation told Arizona State they're not going to support them anymore, follow them. So that's a major slap. For Arizona State to lose Sunkist Kid money, that was $1 million a year. The Sunkist Corporation, Art Martori did a wonderful job. His ex-wrestler, he owns Sunkist or has controlling stock. He turned it over to his daughter. He retired. His daughter said, I don't see the benefit of having wrestling, paying that kind of money to wrestling. It's cost analysis, with money going out, what's the benefit coming in? She didn't see whether the two married each other. So, is that a death nail in the coffin, collegiately of ASU? I don't know.